Welcome back to another episode of Tears for Fears. I'm your host, Megan Shoup. You can follow me on Twitter at Megs08DFS, and we are talking through the Week 15 Tiers slate, the main slate on Sunday on DraftKings today. But before we do, please be sure to like this episode and, of course, subscribe to the FanSpeak Network. And thank you for bearing with my technical difficulties. You're just going to have the DraftKings screen and me talking it through today, but we're still going to get out some good content, go through tier by tier, and find our core plays. Also, remember, there is a Saturday tiers for the 3-game slate, and I have articles for both Saturday and Sunday up on fanspeak.com. So check out fanspeak.com. I have an article for Saturday with my favorite plays for the short slate and an article for Sunday, which we'll be going over for my favorite plays for the main slate. And of course, my core plays are plugged in for the main slate into our tier simulator on fanspeak.com, where you can run the simulator and get some ideas for your tiers lineup. So with that, let's go right over to DraftKings and go through tier by tier. And of course, we're starting in tier 1 with the quarterbacks. We've got Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, and Justin Herbert. And in this tier, I just worry about the pushback in the Texans game, though they shocked the Cowboys last week. I don't know that they're going to do that again. So I'm fading Mahomes just because I don't think he's going to really need anywhere near a ceiling game. Worry about that with Jalen Hurts too, but he's been having an incredible floor. So my core plays are Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, and Justin Herbert. But my favorite play has been what should have been my favorite play all year long. Play the quarterback against the Tennessee Titans. They have been an absolute pass funnel. We saw that last week with Trevor Lawrence. So we're playing Justin Herbert, and he's now got his weapons back. Perfect spot for him against this Titans defense. Justin Herbert is my tier 1 play. Over to tier 2, we have Devontae Adams, Austin Eckler, Jamar Chase, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown. How can you fade any of these guys, right? They could all put up a ceiling game, so I'll have exposure to all of them. But my favorite plays are probably Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, actually, in that same game. But it's hard to deny the receivers of Chase, Devontae Adams, and Brown too. Any one of these guys could have an explosion game. That's why I'm going to have exposure to all of them. But I'm going to go ahead and go to some correlation. While you can pass on the Titans, you can run on the Chargers, and I think the Titans will do just that. Give me Derrick Henry as my favorite tier 2 favorite play. Over tier 3, we have Travis Kelce, DeAndre Hopkins, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tony Pollard, and CeeDee Lamb. I'm going to fade DeAndre Hopkins with Kyler out for the year. That definitely downgrades Hopkins. And so my core plays are Kelce, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Pollard, and Lamb. Amon-Ra has a tough matchup against the Jets defense. And again, I don't know if Kelsey's going to need a ceiling game. So I actually like the Cowboys the best here. And CeeDee Lamb is actually my favorite play. I look for a big ceiling game for him. So he is my tier 3 play. Over tier 4, we have Joe Mixon, Miles Sanders, Ramondre Stevenson, Alvin Kamara, James Conner, and Keenan Allen. And it looks like Ramondre Stevenson is pretty questionable for this game. So that makes that tough. Alvin Kamara has just been hard to trust this year. So I am out and fading those two. My core plays are Allen, Conner, Sanders, and Mixon. And, I don't always, force correlation, but again, I love the receivers, obviously, also in this Titans Chargers game. And so give me Keenan Allen as my favorite play in tier 4. Over to tier 5, we have Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, Tom Brady, and Derek Carr. I actually only have interest in 3 quarterbacks here. It's Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, and Dak Prescott. It's mainly a situation where I just think those 3 have the kind of the best situation to put up a ceiling game or get pushed back and forth. And so that's why I like those 3 the best. And it's been hard to see with Carr and Brady the last few weeks. And with Lawrence, it's again going up against that Dallas defense. So but my favorite play is so clear by far. I love Joe Burrow the best in this tier. Cincinnati's really turning it on towards the end of the season and, making a push for the AFC North, a strong push for playoff seeding in the AFC. And I love Joe Burrow as my tier 5 play. Over to tier 6, we have Christian Kirk. Mike Williams. Big Mike Williams is back and healthy and looked great last week. Chris Olave, Chris Godwin, Garrett Wilson, and Devonta Smith. And in this tier, I like a lot of these guys, to be quite honest. I'll probably fade Godwin and Kirk. Again, Kirk going up against that Dallas defense, and Godwin, since Tampa just hasn't looked great. So my core plays are Mike Williams, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, and Devonta Smith. I'm going to go Chris Olave against Atlanta secondary. I mean, they have just been another, secondary to target this year. And Olave has just been continuously putting up solid numbers. This is the time of the year where you really start to like these rookies, Garrett Wilson being another one of them, where they're really getting it, really starting to really break out. So Chris Olave is my tier 6 play. Over to tier 7, we have Zonovan Knight, Mike Williams, Ezekiel Elliott, Cordell Patterson, Jerry Jeudy, Travis Etienne Jr., David Montgomery, and Isaiah Pacheco. I don't have a ton of interest in the running backs here, to be quite honest. Just don't see the ceilings as compared to the receivers, except outside of Elliott. So I'm fading Patterson, Etienne, Pacheco, and Montgomery. My core plays are Zonovan Knight, Mike Williams, Ezekiel Elliott, and Jerry Jeudy. My favorite play, I was deciding honestly between Knight and Elliott or Mike Evans. I know I said that about Godwin, but Mike Evans being all the way down in tier 7, makes that a different conversation. So I was struggling back and forth, but projections really love Zonovan Knight. He's kind of taken over that role and has really looked pretty good, and he's going up against the Lions defense. So Zonovan Knight is my tier 7 play. Over to tier 8, we have Marquise Brown, Leonard Fournette, DeAndre Swift, Juju Smith-Schuster, Najee Harris, Drake London, Jerick McKinnon, and Dalton Schultz. This tier is tough, honestly. There's not a lot that I can easily fade, and not a love that I truly love, find to be amazing plays like I found in some of the other tiers. So for this tier, I'm fading Marquise Brown again with Kyler out. Najee Harris, Swift, I just don't know that I see the ceiling there. May sprinkle Fournette because of his targets that he's getting. Dalton Schultz, I like the Cowboys, in that game. And then I'd say my core plays are down to Juju Smith-Schuster, Drake London, and Jerick McKinnon. Drake London now has a new quarterback with Desmond Ridder, so we'll see how that goes. But it's worth a try. I think it's got to be hopefully a little better than the usage he was getting with Mariota. I don't know that McKinnon's certainly not going to repeat what he did last week, but he's explosive. So, those three, those are two Chiefs, but you're getting them in tier 8. And so getting them in tier 8 is much different than paying for them in tier 1 or 3, like we were talking about with Mahomes and Kelsey. So hopefully that makes sense. But I'd say I'm leaning towards Juju as my favorite play over here in tier 8. So what do you think? Please let me know in the comments section. And of course, before you get out of here, please be sure to like this episode and subscribe to the FanSpeak Network. Again, we really appreciate you checking out the show, and we appreciate you checking out our articles over at fanspeak.com. As I mentioned earlier, you can check out the Saturday tiers on fanspeak.com and the Sunday tiers on fanspeak.com and the tiers simulator. So with that, thank you so much for joining us. And now let's go make some money.